Hello everyone. In this video I want to show you how to set up your preview settings in Rhino so that your projects look a bit better than simply what you get from the Grasshopper, and also how to export images so that you can use them in your presentations, and also in the same way you can export animations or videos by recording the screen and so on. So let us start. And I will simply take my Rhino file from tutorials on placing simple buildings on parcels. So this was the result I got. I might have added a couple of things here, but it is not that important. So I think one important change here is that I replaced my buildings, my template buildings, which I use here. I replaced curves with B-wraps. So I just apply extrusion to those buildings so that when they are placed on my parcels, they are already extruded buildings, so that I can set different extrusion height to those two different typologies. And yeah, that's a very easy way to do it. I think everything else I just left it as it was in the tutorial. Yes, so how do we want to approach preview settings? First of all, there are some components in Grasshopper which allow you to specifically control settings for previewing some objects, like custom preview is one of them. And secondly, we also want to adjust our view options in Rhino. And I will talk you through these two important things. And lastly, we will learn how to export images from Rhino. I have prepared this group called Preview, where I just copy-pasted all of my important blocks of the definition. So I have buildings, parcels, city blocks small, and city blocks large, because as you remember, in this demo, I firstly subdivide my initial plot by those manually drawn lines, and then I apply some automatic subdivision so that larger blocks also get some secondary streets. Then I have my boundary, green areas, and those are defined by those points. I'm also not sure that I showed it, but that's quite a simple pipeline here. So I have the city blocks. I have this geometry pipeline, which listens to some specific layers in my Rhino. Here it is called green areas. And on this layer, I can paste any number of points, and I simply check whether those points are inside one or another parcel. And if it is so, then this parcel gets filtered out, and here I reference it as green areas. So that's what I have here as well. Small parcels, and those I got from here when I had my parcels, and I wanted to filter out some smaller parcels so that I do not try to place any, so that the script does not try to place any buildings on those smaller parcels, because it is useless. They are simply too small for buildings. I got them as well because maybe I might want to color them green so that they are perceived as parks rather than parcels. Then I have my attractor for density and attractor for parks. So you might collect any number of items you want to include in your preview, but it is just my advice to you to store them all in one place so that you can regulate your preview settings really easily. Let us start. So first of all, check that none of your Grasshopper objects are visible in Rhino. So just select your full definition, right-click somewhere, and select Preview Off, so that your objects are not visible in Rhino. And let us start with a custom preview component. I think most of you have already checked it. So the custom preview component has two inputs, geometry and material. So for geometry, let me maybe take my buildings, and you should already see some things appearing in your Rhino, specifically the buildings. And as material, I want to use the color swatch. Color swatch allows me to select any color I like for the buildings. So I can play with hue, saturation, value, or lightness, and so on. Okay, so the buildings, I will just assign them any color, maybe something like very, very light gray is a good color, almost white. Then parcels, and for parcels I might want to use the same custom preview. So let me try how it works. So yeah, this is how I can control the color of my curves, and I can give them any color. I can give them color black, for instance. But actually there is a better way of doing it. So instead of using custom preview, you might want to use custom preview line weight. And custom preview line weights is not included in Grasshopper. You should find it in plugins, and you can find it here in Human plugin. So Human plugin is really fascinating because it includes a lot of small improvements to default components, and one of them is custom preview line weights. I can tell you that I use it all the time. I need to preview anything in Grasshopper, just because that's a really cool way of giving some thickness to your lines. So the first two inputs are the same, so it's the geometry and shader or material. So I can also connect the color here. Let me just turn off energy saving mode. And the third input is thickness. So let me create a slider from 0 to 10, and I will show you how the thickness works. I will give it some color, like blue one. Okay, now you can hopefully see my parcels in Rhino, and now look what happens if I increase the thickness. So now you can see that I can give any thickness to my curves, and they indeed get it, and this is what you see in Rhino. So a small thing you need to know about this component is that if you zoom in, the thickness of those lines remains the same. So if I zoom out, you see that the line takes like 1/10 or 1/15 of my parcel, and if I zoom in, the size of this line on the display remains the same, but since the parcel gets bigger, the line adjusts as well. So it means that the size of those lines is like it changes when you change the zoom. If you want to avoid this behavior, you can change this last input, absolute. And let me create a Boolean toggle to quickly play with it. So if I move it from false to true, you can see that now my lines actually get very consistent size. You might want to choose one of those options. It's completely up to you, of course. So that much about parcels. Now, city blocks S and city blocks L. The key difference between them is that city blocks S also introduce some lines here, which basically create the secondary street network, right? And I want to use it somehow to also include those streets in my preview. To do it, I could of course use the custom preview line weight or simple custom preview. let me actually use the custom preview here. So let me connect building blocks S and L, and maybe change color to something recognizable, like this. Oh yeah, and also if you have your preview only selected objects turned on, then probably you do not see previews of those objects. So please turn it off. Yes, now let me maybe turn off parcels for now. So now you can see that this happens if I connect city blocks S and L to my custom previews. So you see that they almost overlap in some parts, and also my results are not actually that fascinating. And if I turn on the parcel view, then you see that it gets even more mixed up. So instead of previewing those lines, I want to actually preview surfaces, which those lines contain. To do it, I simply need to convert them to surfaces. So if you can convert a curve into surface and turn off the preview, and then give the surface to the custom preview, you see what happens. It basically adds the fill layer to all those surfaces now, and this is much better for my needs. So I can now do the same for my city blocks L and give them some different color. And now you see that it got a bit better, at least more colorful. The problem I have now is that some of my surfaces overlap, and thus I get this flickering on the ground floor level, because those surfaces have exactly the same Z value, and so they, like, Rhino cannot decide which of them to show first. So if you would work in some photo editing software, like let's say Photoshop, it will usually have layers, and you can move layers higher or down, higher or lower, and thus change the sequence of how those those layers are displayed on the screen. But Grasshopper doesn't have it, so we need to find a workaround for it. And I tend to just try to recreate the layers in my 3D space manually. So I will just move some of those objects higher or lower by a very small value, so that it is almost invisible for the eye, but it solves the problem with those overlapping surfaces. So I would use the move component. I will move my surfaces over the Z axis, and I really want to move them like by 1 centimeter, so 0.01 meter. So I want to move my city blocks S, because they should appear over my city blocks L, like this. And so now you see that I got my visualization got rid of any problems with overlapping surfaces. That's great. Now let's continue working on it. So the next thing I have is the boundary. And for the boundary, I would probably need to do the same. So I will need to convert boundary to the surface and give it some color and set up the preview. Again, the same thing happens because I now need to move my city blocks L a bit higher than the boundary. So I will copy this move component to apply it to city blocks L. And I will also adjust the numbers a bit. So like this. Okay, now it looks better. So what I have here now, so first of all, I have my boundary, then I have my major street networks or major city blocks. Then I have my smaller city blocks. And you see that here in those gaps between them, I can basically see all the way to larger blocks, and in some places I can see the boundary. So it means that boundary basically stands for color of my roads, of my major roads, and the color of city blocks L will be the color between city blocks S. So that's the color of my minor roads. And then I see the color of parcels, of parcel outlines, right? Yes, and over them I have my buildings. So that's already quite okay, and that's the very minimum you can get. But now you can basically, you can probably see that my preview does not look that nice, and it could of course get much better and look much more presentable if I would add some shadows and ambient occlusion and so on. And there is a really easy way to do it in Rhino, and I will teach you how to do it. So Rhino has this preview mode which is called Arctic. So to change your display mode or preview mode, you would press this small expand icon close to your perspective title and change it from wireframe to, like, you can of course set something like shaded, and you can also use the Arctic mode. And I think that if you set Arctic mode the first time, you should get a bit different image. Yes, something like that. So Arctic mode by default does not give you any colors as preview. So you would only see your model in black and white. And this is of course quite cool. And you can also just go with it and actually use it in your final presentations. That's completely fine. But of course, most of you would want to add some colors. And to do it, you need to enable this setting in the Arctic mode. So to do it, press the small arrow again and navigate to Display Options. When you open Display Options, you'll see this panel with Rhino options. And under View, Display Modes, Arctic, you will see some settings which control this display mode. What we are looking here for is this one, Color and Material Usage, under Shading Settings. So color and material usage is now set to custom material for all objects, and you can also change this material, you can change the color and so on. But I want to change it to something like rendering material. And rendering material will allow us to, it will allow Rhino to access the colors which Grasshopper gives to those objects and preview them in the viewport. So this is actually the only setting you really need to change to see colors. But of course you can play with other settings. One of them is the ground plane. So ground plane basically accounts for receiving shadows from objects. And you can see it on these small examples like this one building, which is actually a bug. You can see that this building goes over the parcel outline and over the boundary. And if now it casts a shadow onto the ground plane, and if I deselect my ground plane, the shadow is gone. Yeah, that's actually the only difference. So I will just leave it turned on, I guess. And you might also want to go into shadows here on the left and change the intensity of the shadow by going all the way down and moving it from 100 to something like 50 or maybe 40. It's completely up to you. I prefer to leave it by 40, 45, 50. You can change some more settings here. They actually do not affect your shadow settings that much, but it's always worth a try to play. Okay, I just pressed OK. Okay, yes, one last thing I wanted to show you there, which I forgot, was the color of my background. And to quickly change some of the settings of your preview, you can turn on this display, what is it, palette, I think it is called, or panel. Yes, so you can navigate, you can find it here under panels, display, and here you can set your background color to be solid color and change this color. You can also do it in these display options we have just covered, but I prefer to have it here. So I can give it some light gray color, maybe with a little bit addition of coldness to it. That's even too much. Maybe something like that. Okay, looks fine. Yes, and now you can of course start giving some proper colors to your objects. And I don't want to spend too much time playing with the colors and thicknesses, transparency, and so on, but you can of course do it all. That's already the question of taste. So I will just leave it like this. I will change my color of parcels to something a bit lighter. Maybe we'll give them some yellowish tone. Maybe something like that. Okay. Now my greenery is a bit too dark, so I want to reduce its intensity. Yes, I think this looks fine for now. But I would probably need to add some contrast to this image because now it is very it is too bright and too light in my opinion. So what I want to do now is to also show the wireframe of my buildings. So I want to show their outlines, their edges. To do it, I can use this component which is called brep wireframe. brep wireframe. And this is a very simple component. You give it your brep and it gives you edges of it. So I will just copy my custom preview line weight component here and connect my wireframes to it. So now I can easily control size of edges of my buildings. I would probably make it really thin and give it some dark gray or maybe even black color. Well, actually blue is also not that bad. Okay, this looks good enough. Now, what do I miss? I still miss my small parcels, so I might want to do something with them. And for now, I will simply connect them to my with my green areas. Oh yeah, and you can see that. Sorry, I think I missed some small part. I used my city blocks L as the greenery, and of course it was not correct because then some of my streets would also get this green color. So this should be dealt with separately. So I want to give some different color to my city blocks L to show better my minor streets. And now let me copy this preview pipeline and create a new pipeline for green areas. So I'll connect my green areas to it and give it the proper green color now. And I should, of course, move it a bit higher up. So something like this should work. Okay, this is fine. You might think about the color of your boundary. Maybe it can be white, maybe it can be some other color. And probably one of the last things I wanted to show is to how to enable some how to show some trees on this plot. And I will do it really simply. I will use this component, which was created by another Igor Gaidukov, who is also working at the info chair at the Bauhaus. So this is a really cool, reliable, and very nice component which generates trees. So I can turn on this component, and you can see that I have already connected my parcels and building BREPs as inputs to this component. So it might take a while because, yeah, as you can see, it creates a lot of trees on my plot. And yeah, it has some inputs like density and number of parcels which should be planted with trees. So maybe I want to reduce the density a bit to something like 10, because otherwise that's too many trees. Okay, this looks much better. I can also copy this tree generator second time and use this one to plant trees on my green areas. So let me connect them instead of the parcels. Okay, and here I can change the density to, let's say, 50. Yes, you see considerably more trees. I can also change their type to pines. It doesn't matter that much. And I definitely advise you to create your own tree generator. It shouldn't be that hard to do. The one component which we are using here for preview of those trees is called a color wheel. I think this is a built-in component which you can find under inputs. Inputs color wheel. It takes a number of colors you needed to generate. So in this case, it's 554 colors. And you can specify some range of those colors. So I can move it to red colors, and you can see how all of my trees also get more red. I can increase this range of colors, and you see that some colors get into this purple category now, and some of them get all the way down to the yellow. I can also change the luminosity range. So this will mean that my colors will go from almost black to almost white. I want to keep it somewhere in the middle. And the same goes for saturation. So if I want my trees to get different colors from non-saturated to saturated by 100%, then I can just give it this full range. But of course, I would prefer to keep it somewhere in the middle and change the color to green. can also decrease this range. I think this looks pretty nice. Yes. Okay, this is basically it. So I covered some of the ways how you can style your objects, your 3D objects, your 2D objects like surfaces or curves, how to layer them so that they do not intersect, even if your surfaces actually are all in the same plane. We have those attractors not covered, and this is a quite simple task to do. I think my Grasshopper has too many objects now, and my laptop is really very slow. So you can preview your attractors with this component called .display. Let me connect maybe park attractors here. So it takes 3 inputs, P for points, C for color, and S for size. So as size, I would use something like 10. Okay, 10 is too little, so maybe 30. Yeah, now you see them. And the color, I can maybe steal the swatch from the green areas and give it some darker color. And also, of course, you do not have to show your attractors. It's just a nice touch to show that your model is parameterized with those points, and you can take them and move anywhere at any point, if your laptop is not as slow as mine. And lastly, I want to show you how to export the image from Rhino. To do it, you can use those commands, which I completely forgot how they are called. I think it's copy the clipboard. Oh yeah, it is called view capture to file. So the command view capture to file will hopefully, will open this small window. And here you can select your view. So in my case, that's perspective. You can also select something like top. You can give it options, and as the resolution, you can set custom resolution to export something like a square, 1024 by 1024. Or you can, of course, change it to whatever you want. You also can give it some scale, and the scale of 3 will just mean that those values are multiplied by 3 before exporting. And then you can, let me give it 1, and then you can save the image anywhere you want. So after you have saved the image, always check it. Try to zoom in, try to ensure that all of the line thicknesses and colors are correct. In some case, like if you give some different scale, like scale of 3, you will see that the line thickness sometimes gets corrupted. It happens because line thickness, like if you set it to be dependent on the on your screen size, you will see that if you increase your screen size by increasing the resolution, oops, that's not what I wanted to show. Lines can also increase. Okay, I'm not exactly sure what happened here. I actually have never seen that before. Maybe now. No, still not. Yes, I think my laptop is dying and I desperately need the charger. But anyway, so sometimes if you apply a scale which is higher than 1, you will see that your line thickness changed, and you might want to go back to Grasshopper and change it correspondingly. Okay, maybe now? No, I think that was the final image, but yes, the image got corrupted. So this is how you can export images. To export videos, I would usually use one of the screen recorders, or maybe connect a slider to rotate component to rotate my full model, or something like that. Like usually video is a pretty good way of showing how interactive your model is. So you might want to put an attractor on some curve and yeah, animate how this attractor goes along the curve and export it to a video. Yes, and this is another topic. I think you can better find it online by googling something like Grasshopper create animation. There are definitely many tutorials on this, and I just don't want to make this video too long. So this is it. I will share the tree generator with you all, so that you can also use them in your projects. But again, I think creating your own tree generator is very beneficial, because then you can control it better, and yeah, it will be also less recognizable, because this generator, like, it is not a good thing if it just appears on all of your projects. Okay, I think this was it. Sorry if this video was longer than I expected, and I hope it was helpful to you. Bye bye.